Hello, everyone. Welcome at this World Goodwill Meditation webinar, which is managed from Geneva. Today is the 30th of July, and my name is Mince van der Velde. The title of this webinar is Education in the New Age. We are happy to have a special guest, Said Touhami, who is working with the School for Peace in Almere in the Netherlands. The short introduction on World Goodwill and this webinar will be followed by a World Goodwill meditation, and thereafter Said will present the School of Peace and the House of Peace, and its background. As the School of Peace is a primary school, that is to say for young children, I also asked Said to reflect on the question, how do young people look at the world of today? After the meditation, I will introduce the School of Peace a bit more. But for the discussion, you can put your questions in the chat, or at the discussion time, you can raise your hand and we will give you the floor. I will keep my introduction short so that we will have enough time for the meditation and the presentation of Said. The Goodwill Meditation Group is a worldwide group of people who link up each Wednesday at noon, that's to say noon this time in New York, to meditate on goodwill. The group aims to stimulate and strengthen the goodwill that is expressed by humanity as a whole. This webinar meets the last Wednesday of each month and provides a platform for individuals to come together to use the Goodwill meditation and to discuss our common work. As most of you know, one of the 24 blue books has the title Education in the New Age, which was published in 1954. That is about 3/4 of a century ago. The United Nations Agenda 2030, or the Sustainable Development Goals, have as a goal number 4 to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Although we in the West or the North are used to education for all, the 2018 Brussels Declaration of UNESCO stated that worldwide, still 750 million youth and adults are not literate. 2/3 thereof being women, and about 262 million children and youth do not attend school. Now, if you think that the internet will solve that problem, then please remember that to date, still 2.6 billion people worldwide have no access to internet. That is slightly less than 1/3 of the world population. Before I expand more on education, let us quiet our minds and link with the group in sounding the mantra of the new group of world servers. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. In 1945, excuse me, Alice Bailey wrote, The world today suffers from a cultural provincialism based on the dualism in an outward-looking, objective attitude of the Western world and an inwardness or subjectivity of Oriental societies. Each of these civilizations, in its extreme form, is overbalanced in its own direction. In harmonious living, man must integrate both ideals to achieve wholeness for himself and his world. End of the quote. Now, about 70 years later, it seems to me that this thought is still most relevant as the Western way of living is spreading into the East, rather than the reverse, and the balance of an harmonious life is still a long way ahead. Education to date has been largely memory training, though there is now emerging the recognition that this attitude must end. The child has to assimilate the facts that the society believes to be true, has tested in the past and found adequate. But each age has a differing standard of adequacy. The Piscean age dealt with the detail of the endeavor to measure up to a sensed ideal. Hence, we have a history which covers the method whereby tribes acquired national status through aggression, war, and conquest. To a certain extent, this is still the case. Education has three major objectives from the angle of human development. First, it must make a human being an intelligent citizen, a wise parent, and a controlled personality. It must enable him or her to play his or her role in the work of the world and fit him or her for living peaceably and helpfully in harmony with his neighbors. This is what present-day primary and secondary schools try to establish in their continuously changing curriculums. The second goal, it must enable us to bridge the gap between the various aspects of our own mental nature. In biology, we are taught the scientific knowledge of the physical body in great detail. But nothing is said about the more subtle structure of a human being. In the esoteric philosophy, we are taught that on the mental plane there are three aspects of the mind, or of that mental creature we call a human being. These three aspects constitute the most important part of his nature. The first aspect is his lower or concrete mind, the reasoning principle. It is with this aspect of the human being that our educational processes profess to deal, and corresponds to the mind as dealt with by the psychologist. The second aspect is the son of mind, which we call the ego or soul. This is the intelligence principle and is called by many names in the esoteric literature, such as the solar angel, the Agnisvatas, or the Christ principle, etc. With this, religion in the past has professed to deal. And the third aspect is the higher or abstract mind, the custodian of ideas, and that which is the conveyor of illumination to the lower mind, once that lower mind is en rapport with the soul. With this world of ideas, philosophy has professed to deal. So the third goal is the gap between the lower mind and the soul has to be bridged. And curiously enough, humanity has always realized this and has talked therefore in terms of achieving unity or making the at-one-ment or attaining alignment. These are all attempts to express this intuitively realized truth. Thus, education should concern itself during the New Age with the bridging of this gap between the three aspects of the mind nature, between the soul and the lower mind, thus producing at-one-ment between soul and personality, and then between the lower mind, the soul, and the higher mind. We are told that for the first time in the career of humanity, the bridging work can go forward on a relatively large scale. There is a beautiful Sanskrit term describing this bridge, also called the rainbow bridge, which is the Antakarana. Education might therefore be called the science of the Antakarana. This science and this term is the esoteric way of expressing the truth of this bridging necessity. The Antakarana is the bridge the human being builds through meditation, understanding, and the magical creative work of the soul between the three aspects of his mind nature. Of course, talking about the Antakarana in schools of today is a bit of a stretch. Yet, it is interesting to know that Rudolf Steiner has similar ideas on education. Steiner pointed out that it is of no use to discuss education reforms if we do not have a better understanding of the structure of a human being, including his inner constitution. According to Steiner, there are two magic words which indicate how the child in his first 7 years enters into relation with his environment. These are imitation and example. So we can tell a child to be honest, but if then we say, when grandma calls, just tell her that I'm not at home, what example do we give? For the second period of 7 years, the magic words are discipleship and authority. What the child sees directly in his educators with inner perception must become for him authority, not an authority compelled by force, but one that he accepts naturally without question. Again, the example role of the parents is paramount. Focusing a bit more on the situation of today and peace education, and to conclude, I want to mention 3 things. First, we live now in a time of artificial intelligence, whether we want it or not. Much of what we call facts and data are freely available on the internet. Hence the urgent need of counterbalancing these facts and data by focusing on inner and human values of the child, like ethics, values, empathy, etc. Thus we learn to follow our inner compass instead of being led by an external machine. Second, there is the so-called Geneva Declaration on Education for a Culture of Peace. This declaration puts peace at the heart of education and learning. This declaration was proclaimed on the celebration of the 7th edition of the International Day of Living Together in Peace in May 2024. And last but not least, Thomas Legrand has written an excellent book, The Politics of Being, which we can see as a kind of a manual of how to put goodwill into practice. The subtitle of the book is Wisdom and Science for a New Development Paradigm. There is a whole chapter on education, ending with a description of the educational system of Finland. Finland's education system is regarded as one of the best in the world, with a structure of well-paid teachers, plenty of recess time, and less emphasis on homework and tests. The country's higher education system also sets an example, especially since Finland is one of the few nations left in the world where its own citizens receive higher education completely free of charge. If you take into account, as a man thinketh, so is he, it does make sense to plant some seeds for a future education. With these thoughts on education and peace, let us now do our goodwill meditation together. Link up in thoughts with all those people through the world who are working with this Goodwill meditation group. Then reflect upon the fact of relationship. You are related to your family, to your community, to your nation, to the world of nations, and to the one humanity, made up of all races and nations. Then we use the mantra of unification. The souls of all are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form, and life and all events, and bring to light the love that underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all people love. Then reflect upon your own and humanity's relationship with all beings who dwell in the higher realms of mind and heart, the spiritual hierarchy of saints, rishis, bodhisattvas, and masters honored by all the world's religions and spiritual groups. And imagine that you are standing together within the center of the spiritual hierarchy, immersed in the consciousness of the heart of love. For some, this heart of love is known as the Christ. Other faiths have other names for the one at the center, such as Maitreya, the Imam Mahdi, or the Kalki Avatar. Maintaining that high point of contact, let your thoughts reach out to include all members of the human family in whom the energy of goodwill is active. Then we use the affirmation: in the center of all love I stand. From that center, I, the soul, will outward move. From that center, I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the Divine Self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. And visualize the energy of love flowing from the hierarchy through the men and women of goodwill and into the hearts and minds of all people, infusing them with goodwill and creating loving and harmonious human relationships. Then meditate on ways of spreading goodwill, creating right human relationships, and restoring peace on earth. Realize that you're helping build a channel between the spiritual hierarchy and humanity, through which the energy of goodwill may flow, uniting humanity, solving its problems, and healing all cleavages. Linked in thought with men and women of goodwill all over the world, we conclude with the great invocation in its adapted version. We say it with deliberation and full commitment to its meaning, knowing that we are radiating its potent energies to humanity. The great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into human minds. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into human hearts. May the coming one return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide all little human wills, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the human race, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you very much. Now it's a pleasure to introduce Said of the School for Peace, which is a project of the House of Peace, in a bit more detail. As a starting point, we have the UN International Day of Living Together in Peace. The documents I'm mentioning, you can find them in the talk, which is in the chat, which you can download, where you have the references of them. There is further the Mostaganem Declaration of the World Scouting Organization as a further resource. And then there is, I already mentioned it, the Geneva Declaration, which is a call to implement peace education in all public schools worldwide, as well as the Düsseldorf Declaration on living together in cities by a consortium of city majors. Finally, the House of Peace also participates in interfaith dialogues, where people and organizations from different faiths talk to each other. All of which Said will tell us now a little bit more. So, Said, you have the floor.
Good evening, good afternoon. In some places, maybe even good morning. Thank you, Mince. First of all, thank you to the World Goodwill Foundation for letting us participate and meet in this meditative and introspective gathering and reunion. My name is Said Touhami, and I'm currently the chairman of the House of Peace, which is a foundation situated in the Netherlands. We are part of we are part of an international network, which is an association called ISA NGO. ISA NGO is also part of the Economic and Social and Economic Council of the United Nations. And ISA NGO is the abbreviation for International Sufi Alawiya Organization. In French, Association Internationale Sufi Alawiya. With the foundation in 2016 of the House of Peace, we started developing and gathering our efforts for how to implement peace in the education. And in the following years, different experts from the education field and administrative field worked as a group together, and from there came the plan to initiate an elementary school in the Netherlands called School of Peace, based on the pedagogy for a culture of peace, which I will talk about later. As a House of Peace, we have developed programs for and concepts for education, but also working on other fields such as mediation, interreligious and intercultural dialogue, economy, especially an economy for peace and of peace, and of course also the campaign for the International Day of Living Together in Peace, which is each year now since 2017 announced by the General Assembly of the United Nations on the 16th of May. One question that Mintz also asked me was, I don't know, maybe I can also start with that, is how do youth look at today's world? And I don't know if if youths are only concerned with looking at today's world, it's also looking at tomorrow's world, because many of the challenges that are facing humanity are growing by the day, are more concerning every day and every year. So this is one of the things that is of course affecting the hopes, the dreams, and the mental well-being of many youths. As a person someone who grew up in the Netherlands, I can give most of my perspective from here, from a privileged society, especially in material perspective. So there are opportunities. There are, of course, technologies and knowledges and sciences that are accessible. But there are also a growing concern how we are living together with each other. That's in short my answer. I do not want to be too skeptical, but I think it's a big responsibility for the current generation, and especially all adults that are on this planet, to give faith and hope back to the coming generations. And we hope to do so by creating the people of tomorrow, or helping the people of tomorrow to inherit this consciousness that we tried to access through the meditation just now. This consciousness that is universal, this consciousness that surpasses cultural boundaries, religious boundaries, and dogmatic boundaries, whatsoever ideologies. So, which have their place, of course, in humanity, and which should be also preserved and continue. But there are many places in the world today where so many worlds, so many narratives collide and meet each other. How can we prepare a generation that can deal with that peacefully, and that can maybe even mediate between parties that are in conflict or have struggles to connect. That's in short my bridge to the education for a culture of peace, which I want to introduce by saying that the education for a culture of peace is inspired by multiple resolutions and declarations, most of them also from the United Nations and UNESCO, which actually shows which actually focuses on the common good and also the common values that humanity shares, and how can that be educated and integrated into our school system. Without further ado, I would like to share a video wherein the initiator of this of the International Day of Living Together, and also this education, will speak, and the current primary school director will also speak, Said Touhami, and also an ambassador of us. Maybe some of you know him. He was the press officer for Martin Luther King in the last years of his life, Reverend Harcourt Kleinfelter, which I'm going to show a video now of. And if there are any questions, I'm also open to answer questions during my talk. So if you raise your hand, I don't know if Michael and Mintza are okay with it, but for me, that's okay. The video is in English, and some parts are in other languages, but they are subtitled. I hope that's okay.
What should be the fundamental purpose of the educational system?
Een brave burger is niet per se een nobele mens. Als je menselijkheid ontwikkelt, ben je automatisch ook een goede burger. Allereerst gaat het ons om wereldburgerschap. We zijn deelnemers aan een wereldwijde samenleving. Burgerschap vraagt dialoogvaardigheden, vraagt communicatievaardigheden. Hoe ga je om met de ander? Hoe ga je om met meningsverschillen? Daarom hebben wij op de School van de Vrede een dagelijkse praktijk van van een cirkelwerking.
It is very difficult to stop a war. It's much easier to prevent the next one. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. We're only spending pennies to try to prevent war through education.
Pour remettre en connexion à la fois l'individu dans la société, dans le cercle de la société, parce que l'homme est fait pour vivre en société. Comment mettre cela? Il faut des valeurs. C'est des valeurs de justice, des valeurs de solidarité, des valeurs de partage. Donc il faut travailler sur des valeurs, c'est seulement par les valeurs qu'on peut unifier autour du bien commun. Moi, et l'organisation que je représente, l'ONG que je représente, c'est venir et proposer l'éducation à la culture du peuple. C'est une proposition. Nous exigeons pas, nous forçons pas les personnes ou les États, mais ce que nous disons aujourd'hui que cette éducation à la culture de paix est une nécessité absolue à mettre dans les programmes scolaires des écoles à travers le monde.
Well, in short, I hope this gives you a picture of the education and the initiative, at least, from where it stems from. We are happy to also say that since 2022, there is a public elementary school financed by the Ministry of Education in the Netherlands, which integrates this pedagogy on a daily basis. And it's in Almere. And I will show you in a moment the website of this. I already see a hand raised by David Trice. Go ahead. Should I unmute him or can he do that himself?
Can you hear me? Yes, I'm sure you considered all aspects of education. I was just curious. There's a big part of education, religious training, religious education. And I wondered what you thought about that, including that in that aspect in education in your project.
Thank you all, first of all, for the question. Of course, spiritual and religious education is not excluded. To maybe give a clear context of our school, because it's not that it can be applied all over the world. Because, for instance, the Netherlands is a more secular society than other countries where you have a majority which is overtly like practicing religion. So that also means that it can have a different application. It can also be applied in a religiously or spiritually oriented school. But for us, we chose to open a non-confessional school. And in that school also to give the floor to the heritage of the world, the heritage of humanity, whether it's cultural heritage or spiritual heritage. So that also means that there are ways of showing the noble virtues that people have incarnated, but also can be found back in our religious scriptures. So these are also used for that purpose, for those developing those values. And of course, as many of you know, some children also have more interest into spiritual and inner development. And but it's not it's a part of orientation, and we'll leave it at that. That's how I can answer your question for now, which means there are stories that are maybe used from biblical stories or stories from saints that are sometimes nominative, so we use them like with all the names, but also sometimes for the sake of involving the children, we translate them to their contexts and try to give the moral of the story. Do I?
Yes, thank you very much. No, that's very clear. That's very
Okay.
clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yes. I also see some messages in the chat. I do not read them. I have not read them yet. If there's something relevant, are there questions? I'm gonna look at them now. Okay. Or I don't know if Michael can assist me here, because I think let me see.
We have one here from Nick Ortiz. Do you want me to read it for you, Said?
Oh, please, thank you.
Yeah, he asks, peace is inclusive and a universal value. How does a School for Peace bridge the world's many cultural differences?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Are there other questions?
Yes, another one by Kit Turin. She asks, how has the School of Peace developed a curriculum that can be shared with other schools, with parents, and with communities?
Those are the questions, I guess, until now. Okay. Well, I will start with the last question, which means that we follow the ministry, the curriculum of the Ministry of Education in the Netherlands, because all finance, like if you're not a private school, you have to follow that curriculum. But to give an example, in the curriculum, for instance, when it comes to language, the language curriculum has many aspects and skills that have to be developed. For instance, being how do you say, convincing, making a summary. But we try to add also other skills, or having a discussion. But the word dialogue is not mentioned. That language can be a very important tool to have dialogue. So dialogue, we add that to it. So we try to enrich it, or giving a voice to the voiceless. So which means that meaningful education, it means that you try to develop the cognitive faculty, but for a purpose, not for the purpose of itself to memorize it, as was mentioned. I guess it was quoted from either Steiner or Mrs. Alice Bailey, to only have the memory. And also what many neuro researchers have found is that when something has a meaning for somebody's life, social life, or other, like I would say, like their being, when it has a meaning, the connections and the how do you say, like the connections and the memory is triggered in many more ways and much more stronger. So that's a short answer to that. I hope that helps. The first question by Nick Ortiz, how do we bridge between the many cultural differences? For instance, nowadays, all the countries, they have history classes. And most of the history classes and history education is from a, we could say, one-sided nationalistic perspective, where most of the time the dominant group of the nation that they're in, they are on the right side of the history, and also they are the center of that history. But nowadays, with the classrooms, for instance, in the Netherlands, there are almost 200 nationalities living in the Netherlands or more. How, if that person from that country meets the other person from that country, and they all have a different story, how can you unify that with a historical perspective, where you say humanity is a family, or we can say humanity has a history, and we can know that history through the lens of humanity, as if civilizations are we say bouwstenen in Dutch, which are like construction stones, and each adds something adds something unique to humanity, and we are in complementary and not in conflict with each other. And we gave this also with with a form of a garden. So we have made a garden of peace where we have the biodiversity, but also we used it as a symbol for the cultural diversity. And we made for each continent also their unique part of the garden, where we showed a uniqueness of Africa. For instance, we used the Ubuntu wisdom. I am because you are, or because we are. Or from the Aboriginals, the Maori cultures, who gave their heritage through songs and through the paths of the forest, or of the yes, of their landscape where they lived. The name is a bit long, so but I think it's something like Hoponopopo, something like this. So it's each so to give place to that and give like a thread, and that a human is a consciousness, which means you can broaden it up. Of course, you can take from your ancestors, you can acknowledge that, but you can also access, instead of only one cultural reference, you can have multiple. Nowadays, you can access to and that's also a place of the new technology. You can access so many, and to show the complementary of it. Indeed, what he written down. Ho'oponopono. That's him. So history class is very important for this. Can be used for this purpose of harmonizing it, and also. It's also not only bridging between cultures. Most of the time, it's also bridging between the individual and the we can say the community. To go not only from a culture of I, but also to a culture of we. And yeah, I will maybe show the website to give it a bit more context. Let me see, where's the website? Okay. Are you all following me still? Is it still
Yeah, I think we do.
great. Do you have a question, Minza?
No, go on with your
Well, here on the website, this is translated by just an online tool. So it's actually a Dutch website, and you can find here the educational vision. I will try to translate it again for you to look with me. Don't take it word for word, because it's not. Because I think sometimes a word in another language has another nuance, but it's developing the human qualities and the self-awareness. That's what I wanted to say, and also to explore those universal values, and to know that there are, they help us to go to better experiences, to go to help us in our actions. So also so that they are applicable and not only theoretical and philosophical concepts. And in Dutch, you have two words. You have opvoeding and you have onderwijs. Onderwijs means education, I would say. And opvoeding means upbringing, or like it's a nourishment, like opvoeding. And what the difference is that most of our schools, as was saying, is really good, have become very developed in education, in the most sophisticated theoretical developments and cognitive and cognitive how do you say, like spectrum, in a cognitive spectrum. But when it comes to our society, when we see the result of it, it's not necessarily that it results in a more how would we say virtuous society. And that's the reason why we want also to translate the knowledge, to make the knowledge also intertwine it with these human values. Let me see. We made a charter. So because we believe that the teachers cannot do this alone. As Steiner said, I think, I don't know if it was Steiner or it was your own words, Mintze, that the role of the parents is paramount. So that means that we need, as they say in Africa, it takes a village to raise a child. So it means that when a child comes to our parents bring their child to our school, and they bring them maybe because it's nearby and it's practical, but we ask them also to sign the charter, which means that you commit to certain set of values and responsibilities, and also the development of your child. And there are like 8 times a year, there is almost monthly a circle session, which I will talk about later, because that's one of the methods that we use that's central in the School of Peace, is the circle of awakening to qualities and virtues. But this charter, yeah, let me see if it's translatable. I don't think I can translate this now for you, unfortunately. But it has some points that the parents signs for this, which means like they will try to adhere and cooperate to the values of the school. I can go into much
the slide is still in Dutch, but we have 2 questions. Maybe we can first address the questions and then see what's getting.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Feel free to cut me off, Mintze, because I can go on for long. Okay. I see 2 hands raised and also a question in the...
The first one was Sam. Can we unmute Sam?
Lovely. Thank you, Said, and thank you, Mintze. Where do I start? I just wondered how much you use entertainment within the education system. I mean, I don't know if other people have played video games and all those sort of things, but also just pure entertainment, which often stays in our minds longer and helps us to often learn quite quicker than we usually do. I just wondered if that was used within your endeavours with the Peace School.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's go to the next question, and then I will try to answer. Steve Nathan, I see.
Yeah. Hi, Said. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Beautiful. First of all, it's lovely to hear about the school. I'd be really interested to know something like how many pupils do you have? How many students in the school in EMEA? What is it, like one of the larger schools or a smaller school? That to me would be really significant. And the other thing is just, I was intrigued looking at some of the websites, the NGO website you mentioned, and I wondered if there's quite a strong Sufi element, Alawi Sufi influence, and for our community, I think that's very significant and rather it's very important that we know that, because that's a terrific thing. That means that it's clearly, as you say, it's not pushing a particular faith, but it has a spiritual understanding behind it. And that's a very interesting, that's very interesting to me anyway. So if you could just clarify that, the association with these monthly meetings with the around a Sufi base, and the actual, how big the school is, how many teachers you have. It's obviously a very significant project. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay. Well, starting with the last question again. Well, this is we just finished our 3rd academic year. Well, not academic, but our 3rd school year. And which means we started with 2 students, and we're now currently above the 40, spread in 2 different classes. And in each class, we now have almost 20 children, not 20. In 2 classes, we have around 15 children, and 1 class, the oldest, are less than 10. So Why? Because we started with the first and second year, third year, and we started each year we added a class. So the first year was from year 1 to 3. Then the second year we added class 4, and last year we added class 5. And for the coming year, there will also be year 6 and maybe 7. We want to gradually grow also. The crisis is not, the demand is not on the children. There are a lot of children also here in the Netherlands, but educators is also not that easy to find, also who are committed to this pedagogy. In relations to the initiator of this education for the culture of peace is Sheikh Khaled bin Tounes, and there's also a website about it called culturedepaix.fr or cultureofpeace.en. You can find it, and there's the concept more broadly. The concept is there more broadly, so it can also be translated into different countries. But for in the Netherlands, we have translated it to the Dutch context. And one of the most essential parts when developing a pedagogy is our we call it like world image and human image, like the image that you have of the human. What is a human? And we believe that the human is indeed not only the needs that we have of flesh of blood, but it means that the human is a consciousness. So he has some people say a spirituality, but other people say the inner human. So you can at least acknowledge whether you're religious or not, or that there is an inner human in you, and that is the thing that we see, that there is a natural leniency or natural how do you say aanleg, like, a potential, and we focus on that potential of the child, of each human also, but in this context of the child, this potential is of well-intended nature. Let me put it that. Does that give a bit of context, Steve Nation? And then I go to the question of Sam Phoenix, Tony Man. Okay. The question, I forgot it. What was it?
The question was about play and theater and thing in your.
Well, to be honest, because we're just 3 years old and we had simultaneously developed the school, the building, and the tools and the philosophy, intertwine it with the curriculum. So not all tools. We use tools that are existing. In Dutch, we have one of Jenaplan. We have Montessori tools that we use especially in the first 2 years, because they are in harmony with the philosophy. So we not try to invent everything from the start, but there are things that we try to use, whether it's theater, plays, or the arts, sciences. And for instance, when it comes to audio, visual, entertainment, games, would you say like video games? That's a good question. I do not know. I cannot say for a fact that we did not yet use it, but I do not recall it. Is that an answer to the question?
Am I still on?
Yes, you're on.
Yeah. Oh, right. Well, thank you. It's just because not long it's been recently brought to my attention a chap called Ren, R-E-N, and he did a video called Hi Ren, which is about, because he's had a lot of health problems. He's suffered from Lyme's disease, so he was almost near death for quite a few years, but he overcame it with his with a lot of help from mental health and his own endeavors and everything. And he's a musician, but also his videos are exceptionally potent, and his video Hi Ren actually has had 53 million views, because he's gone through, he's expressed his own journey, and in that actual video was about his own conscious, battling sort of demons and himself, But the most important thing about it all is it's opened the door to so many people to actually be truthful about the challenges they're facing. And it's doing so much healing. And that's what our world needs so much of at the moment. So yeah, thank you ever so much for all you're doing. It's wonderful.
Okay, yes, I want to join you in thanking Said. We are more or less getting to a close. Normally you have 1 hour. As I'm a bit Swiss oriented, I have to take care of the time. I think it was very, very inspiring, Said. If you have some remarks to conclude, please
Yeah,
go.
because I wanted to show them the school a bit and the children, so a short video that if it's allowed.
Okay, go ahead. And then Michael, you conclude with the final slide, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for listening already, and please feel free to stay in contact, and whether it's something that you want to develop. There's something that I did not talk about yet, which is the method of the circle, and this method is actually also for a dialogue, but it's also essential in how our teachers guide the class. There is not the same hierarchy and distance between the pupil and the teacher, and which we also have more video about, but maybe next time we can more talk about didactics and approaches, if there's a second part ever. Thank you. Here's a video of the school giving a perspective how we try to inspire our children and how they work together.
Hier zijn we geboren. Een grote wereld die maar blijft groeien. Net als wij. Nu zijn we nog klein, maar van binnen dromen we van een grootse toekomst. Net als wij.
Een toekomst waar eerlijk zijn en vriendelijkheid samengaan.
Net als wij.
Waar we leren door te luisteren naar elkaar.
En naar de stilte. Net als wij. Hier werken we samen.
We leren wat voor goeds we als mensen kunnen bereiken.
Net als wij. Hier zijn we uniek en gelijk.
En leven we samen zonder vooroordelen.
Net als wij. Wij gaan de wijde wereld in, maar de wereld komt ook naar hier. Bij ruzies zoeken wij niet de schuldigen, maar de verbetering. Elke dag.
Iedereen heeft hier zijn plaats.
Elke dag.
We zijn verbonden met elkaar.
En met de natuur.
Elke dag.
We leren. We ervaren. We ontdekken. We bouwen morgen met elkaar. Elke dag. Hier, waar jij bent geboren. Net als wij.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Said. And we will see whether we can get a follow-up maybe in another time. But thanks very, very much.
Welcome. It was a pleasure to meet.
And thanks all who were joining in, of course, for your time and your presence.
Thank you, everybody, for the good wishes and the questions and the participation also. Thank you.
Yes, so here you see just the coming events which we have: a Trials Meditation group webinar, which will be Monday, 11th of August. And the 27th is the next Goodwill. And don't forget the full moon of Leo, which will be in 3 headquarters on August the 8th. And in New York and London on August 22nd, we have the new moon. Thanks very much.
He should have started with that film.